My sister wanted to know if I would show up, and I could see the desperation in her eyes. I was her only chance to not end up in jail, and all eyes were looking at me to save her. I knew I was being set up, but it was important that they didn't know I knew. You know what? I'll help you, but I need you to help my girlfriend get out of the predicament you got us into. My sister tried to play dumb, but I knew she knew that the jig was up. This 3-year game had gone on long enough, and I was ready for it to come to an end. I was going to expose them all. I should start from the beginning where I was the golden child. Now, this preferential treatment didn't last long, but when my parents had picked their favorites, it made you untouchable. Those days were special. I got whatever I want, and my sister Naomi was quite literally treated like a stepchild. No, seriously. She was kept underneath our staircase. I felt terrible, but I was strictly forbidden to associate with a bad influence like her. The truth was, I had never seen my baby sister. I remember my mother being pregnant and then going to the hospital. When they returned, they had no baby and pretended like the last 9 months didn't happen.
We have no idea what you're going on about. You need to keep your delusions to yourself. Not another word of this nonsense, or you'll be grounded until we decide otherwise.
I would hear crying coming from underneath the staircase, but with parents as strict as mine, any snooping around the house would be met with punishment. I was being gaslit to the maximum, but there was no way to prove what I was saying was fact. During my school years, I couldn't say I really excelled at anything. This was a massive disappointment to my parents, as I was meant to be their retirement plan. They told me constantly that they expected me to get an office job at a lucrative firm so I could support them when they retired. I just wanted a normal life away from my weird parents. As the years went on, I began to become more curious about the sister under the stairs I had never seen. While I was living the life as a spoiled only child, she was locked away. My conscience got the best of me. I couldn't let my parents mistreat my sister any longer. I needed to try and help her. Her door was padlocked shut, but I was able to open it up one day and found something quite unexpected. My sister's dungeon underneath the stairs was in fact a sprawling apartment. Every luxury you could imagine was in this space. TVs, monitors, supercomputers. Naomi was shocked when she saw me.
Oh, Philip, you weren't supposed to come in here. Do you know what you've just done?
What is all this stuff? How did you get it?
Well, it's complicated. The life you think you're living isn't exactly all it seems. Our parents have been lying to us both. I would say more, but I'm sure they're listening.
This was getting too weird. I demanded an explanation as to what the last 16 years of my life had really been. I wanted to know more, but our family reunion was cut short by my parents arriving back home.
Please, don't tell them you talked to me. We'll both be in more trouble than you know.
And with that, she made me lock her back into her luxury dungeon. That night, as I lay in bed, I wondered how my sister, who was supposedly the black sheep of the family, was living a life of flat-out opulence. Why did she have so many gadgets down there? What were my parents hiding? I thought about going to the police, but what evidence did I have? I couldn't tell them to lock my parents up for spoiling my sister. I tried anyway. So, let me get this straight. You want us to investigate your parents for spoiling your sister? You're crazy, kid. Get out of here. I had one option left. I needed to confront my parents. They took it just as I had suspected. We told you not to go through that door, and you just couldn't help yourself. Who have you told about your sister underneath the stairs? Are you kidding me? You've been keeping a person locked up in our house. I went to the police. My dad's expression changed, and I knew I had said the wrong thing. Do you know what you've just done? Go to your room and we'll discuss this in the morning. I trudged off to my room, and when I woke up the next morning, my family had disappeared. I checked Naomi's opulent mansion under the stairs, and that had been cleared out as well. I had been abandoned, and I was going to find out why. I went to my neighbor's house and found out they had seen my family bringing in a silent electric moving truck, and a team of men had moved everything out in a few hours. I should have been upset, but more than anything, I needed to know the truth behind the life I was living all these years. As I walked around my empty mansion, that morning I was shocked to hear sirens. Before I knew it, "Freeze! Get down!" "Where are they?" "I'm the only one here." "What's going on?" "Your parents have been wanted by the FBI for years. Tell us what you know, or you're going away for a long time. Where are your sisters?" "Sisters?" For the next several hours, I was interrogated by police about my family's whereabouts. I tried to tell them I was just as clueless as everyone else. The people I thought I knew as my parents were fugitives. Not only that, but they were clearly trained liars. Who knew what they were capable of? What they told me next, though, was the most shocking news. "We need you to help track down your sisters. They are even more dangerous than your parents. Each one of them more highly skilled than the last." Skilled at what, exactly? The cops showed me a lineup of all three of my siblings. There was no doubt. They all looked like me, and besides Naomi, I had never heard an inkling about them. "We think you knew about all of this, and the chief has a good mind to charge you. The only thing saving your butt is the fact we have you on a video trying to turn them in yesterday. This is a fact we can forget, though. If you want a guarantee of staying out of jail, you need to cooperate. It's that, or jail time." With no family, no job, and a life that had been a lie, I had no choice, really. I had a feeling the cops were using me as bait. It didn't matter, though. If my parents were going to abandon me, then I would make them pay. I told them I was ready to be briefed on my spy sisters. My confidence didn't last long, as I soon found out it wouldn't be that simple. The one advantage you have is your two older sisters don't know who you are. We need you to infiltrate your family spy ring. Your first target will be Teresa. She was the first sibling your parents trained, and therefore, she's the most experienced. And dangerous. We need to train you up or you'll be a dead man the first minute she sets eyes on you. The next 3 months were the most intense of my life. My family was so high profile I was flown to Washington and trained with the FBI at Quantico as well as the CIA at Langley. Turns out spy work ran in my blood, and I was a natural. I picked up languages and I was a mix of the John Wick and the Equalizer with anything within my grasp. I can't tell you how odd it was to have all these unknown skills. My parents were liars, but they had created a beast. I was soon at the top of my class. Among my classmates, I had plenty of haters. None more vociferous than Ethan. He was a wannabe hotshot agent, but the true reason he disliked me wasn't down to my natural skills. He hated me because the most beautiful girl in the program was crushing on me. When he wasn't staring daggers at me, he was issuing ominous warnings. "If you knew what was good for you, you would stay away from Angela. That is, unless you want trouble, boy." I wasn't going to let this loser's threats scare me away from my dream girl. I mean, Angela was a natural like myself, and everyone knew with her brain and looks, she would be a super spy before anyone in the class. Before I knew it, she and I were dating. My relationship with Angela was the talk of the academy. Our romance didn't last long. Before I could object, any talk of Angela and I starting a life together was put on hold. My handlers soon tasked me with my first target, Naomi. Seeing as she met me before, they believed this would be my best shot to infiltrate their spy ring. I studied her for weeks and was waiting for my assignment when everything went black. When I got my consciousness back, my sisters were in front of me. Naomi stepped in front.
"You've been played for a fool, big brother. Are you sure he isn't adopted? He's a lot uglier than the rest of us." "Mom and Dad, the police, they're all lying to you. They've been keeping you away from us because you're the missing piece to us finally busting this crime ring."
I didn't know who to trust. I was the only one in this situation who was in the dark. The only way I could get an upper hand was if I played all parties at the same. If they were going to underestimate me, I was going to make them all pay. I'm in. Tell me everything you know, girls. The next few weeks were difficult as I played double agent, trying to keep my secret from the police and my sisters. If there was one thing my sisters inherited from my parents, it was that they were tough. Each sister trained me in her specialty. Naomi was a master of deception, able to take on any identity you could think of. Erica was more than proficient at any weapon you can imagine. Teresa was a hacker extraordinaire. They were the real-life Charlie's Angels. If they were as good as I thought, they were my main issue. And how long I could keep up the deception before my super spy sisters figured me out. They were skeptical of my allegiance to begin with, so it didn't help when I received a mysterious phone call to our hideout.
Phil, is that you? I'm so happy I was able to track you down. You're in grave danger, and I needed to warn you. We need to meet up and work as a team. I can't trust anyone but you.
Before I could respond, Teresa hung up the call.
I knew you were a double agent. I told the girls having you here was a liability. You're just as deceitful as Mom and Dad.
I tried to explain that the person contacting me was my crush, but Teresa would hear none of it. I could not tell if my sister was being paranoid or trying to save me. It didn't take long before I got my answer. One night as I practiced my hacking skills, I heard a rustling outside. I quickly checked the security cameras and I saw a SWAT team ready to storm our building. Before I could warn my sisters, I stopped cold in my tracks as I stared at the security feed. Leading the SWAT team was my crush, Angela. Her phone call was bait, and I had led her right to my sisters. I leapt out the window and snuck by the police in disguise, leaving my sisters to get busted. I was now on the run. I didn't know who to trust. If I couldn't go to the police, and my sisters were busted, that left only one avenue. My parents. I spent all my time bunkered down creating a false identity using my computer and deception skills. When I was finished, I'd created a new persona that ensured no one from my past would recognize me. I'd only met my sisters for a few months, but I absorbed everything they taught me like a sponge. I was ready to bring them all down for underestimating me. The next month, I tracked my parents down and back-channeled using my language skills to convince them I was a foreign spy. I had become so good that I knew they wouldn't give my true identity a second thought. Now that I had gained their trust, it was time to free my sisters. That was, if I could truly trust them. I set up a meeting to exchange top-secret documents with my parents. I also let Angela know this exchange was going down through an anonymous tip. The only condition I asked: my sisters had to be brought to the meeting spot as collateral. I was quite aware that the government's policy was to not negotiate with criminals, but if I knew Angela and how ambitious she was, then she wouldn't be able to stay away. The day finally came and I met my parents at the abandoned warehouse. Enough time wasting. Give us the information we came for. Or else. That's when I realized my mom had her weapon trained on me. They had set me up. Or so they thought, until the door burst open and there stood my three sisters tied up with Angela behind them. My parents looked like they had seen a ghost. 3 of them, as a matter of fact. All 3 were shocked to see each other. Angela had finally found the country's most wanted criminals. My parents had seen their assassin daughters for the first time in years, and my sisters were shocked when I ripped off my disguise to reveal I had orchestrated this entire thing.
You set me up? You told me that you loved me.
And I did, until I found out from Ethan that you were a double agent. Right on cue, Ethan and his FBI SWAT team burst through the windows, and before long, everyone was under arrest. My police handlers were furious that I had gone rogue, but I had infiltrated and busted one of the biggest spy rings in the country. More importantly, I had gotten back at my family for lying all these years, and Angela for trying to manipulate my emotions for her own selfish gain. I was soon promoted by the agency chief, and I was given my first case as a full-blown agent with my new partner, Ethan.
When you first came, I had to do my due diligence on you. I didn't know if I could trust you given what I found out about your family. And when I tried